How is the Sunshine State feeling after Stanley Cup Final game number 7? You'll find out right now as Kasey Hudson joins us bright and early on this Tuesday morning on the Early Line down there in Florida. Not exactly in Sunrise, but still happy for those Florida Panthers, I would presume, after a Game 7 victory last night. To recap everything we saw in the 7th and final game of a wild Stanley Cup Final and what it means around the National Hockey League, Kasey is here on this Tuesday. Kasey, as always, thank you so much. I know I speak on behalf of all of us here and Donnie. Nobody better that we could hope for to talk about the final day of the NHL season than Kasey Hudson.
Oh, you guys flatter me, but I would wake up early for no one other than you two, especially after hockey practice continues to thrive.
Absolutely so. So, Kasey, looking back on game number 7, an electric atmosphere in Sunrise. Tons of Oilers fans. The first 7 minutes of the game, the two clubs exchanged goals, and then things slowed down a little bit. Sam Reinhart, though, scoring in the second period early on, and that was the game winner and the Stanley Cup clincher. For the first time in franchise history, the Florida Panthers hoist Lord Stanley's Cup. 2-1 the final in game number 7. Kasey, what will you remember most from the 7th game of this 2024 Stanley Cup Final?
One of the things I'm going to remember most is just some of the massive saves that Bob came up with, but how the team or the defense collectively came in front of him. We saw one of those scrambles last night in the third period where you've got like 3 Panther sweaters in the crease. Bob is on the outside sliding around, lost his stick on the opposite side. It's those moments that help you pull through and win these massive games and win the most important game and host the most important trophy. But, you know, of course, the conversation is going to go around going up 3-0 in this series, almost completely blowing your chance to hoist the cup. The Oilers bouncing back and making history in a numerical amount of ways. So there's a lot to take from this Stanley Cup. But the best part about it is how many new fans it brought into the sport and how many viewers it brought in from all the way down in South Florida up to Alberta. So it's a lot to take in and it's a lot to remember.
It's crazy that, one of these states that, I guess the southernmost state in Florida, hockey dynasties, it seemed like they being here with the Tampa Bay, run that they've had in the past. Now Florida's winning Stanley Cups. Edmonton and Canada can't win any here. But I love the pageantry here, Kasey, of game number 7. It's one of those things where I like to tune in and almost like the first half hour of the game before it even starts, as opposed to the game itself. I thought the crowd was electric. I was so impressed by the Edmonton Oilers fan base flying all that way down. And sometimes I couldn't tell who actually had the home game yesterday. But talk to me about this. Paul Maurice, he's been a hockey coach for a long time, but now taking center stage. I really enjoy his press conferences here. It looks like he was calm, cool, and collected, even though his team was up 3-0. Then it was 3-1, 3-2, 3-3. Never shifted here. Talk to me about Paul Maurice finally winning a Stanley Cup here and what it means to him.
Oh my gosh. I can only imagine how emotional he's going to wake up today and hungover. But 30 years, I mean, if you pay attention to some of the press conferences Paul Maurice has had in probably the last 5-6 seasons, there was a moment there where his career he was about to call it. He was going to just kind of let it be what it was and retire, go fishing. That was one of the questions after he obviously won the cup last night. But he's such a humble person, and he's somebody that really cares about his players. He is a player's coach. So This means a lot for him because he was able to pull through for guys who, as he mentioned, you don't see much emotion out of. He said he saw Sam Bennett smile for the first time in 2 years. I can't imagine coaching a guy like that. So he's weathering so many emotions. He's keeping so many different personalities focused and hopeful and engaged. And I think that it means a lot for him to be able to do that for his players. But a lot of shout outs to his mom and dad. The fact that you get so close to calling it a career and now you get to lift a Stanley Cup and the first one for a franchise. There's just a multitude of things that emphasize what Paul Maurice did, not only for the team, but for the community down in South Florida, Florida as a whole. And hockey's only going to get better if the U.S. continues to buy in. And that starts in the South. And he's a huge imprint of that. So he's been tremendous. Best press conferences. He's very transparent. And the fact that he said we're taking this to a Game 7 in the beginning, he already knew what his team was capable of and what this roller coaster was going to consist of. And I think because he said that in the beginning, because he had that confidence and that poise in the beginning, they got to a Game 7, they got back to their form, and now they're Stanley Cup champions.
Kasey, an awesome moment that kind of encapsulated all of that emotion in one. When Paul Maurice was on camera with the ESPN broadcast when he was handed the Stanley Cup for the first time and said it was almost fitting that this went to 7 games because they had to lose 3 to learn how to win 4. It has not been easy for the Panthers the last 2 years, despite getting to their second consecutive Stanley Cup Final. Now, of course, after every hockey game, they hand out the 3 stars, where star number 1, the 1 star, is given to the game's best performer. Who would you have given that number 1 star to last night after the Panthers were victorious in Game 7?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm going to just go for Carter Verhaeghe, not because he picked up the goal, but it's the fact that your key players have to show up in those key moments. And Verhaeghe hadn't scored since Game 1. And not to mention is that a team that was pretty consistent in at least picking up 1 goal in the first period went on a bit of a drought there. So Carter Verhaeghe not only, broke the drought, but he got back to rare form, which is picking up those really crucial goals. And it was a beautiful deflection that he was able to get himself involved in. So I do want to give that to him because that was a tone setter. Even though the Oilers responded in the same fashion they typically did, on a breakaway, kind of not having any more pressure on them aside from the speed and the momentum that they created in that moment. But, Carter Verhaeghe got that crucial goal to get them going. So he would kind of be my first star. But outside of that, Barkov, I know they're talking about him, but we're still not talking about him enough. The matchups that he's gone in every single round, his crucial role, the amount of goals that he is limited in general. If it was not for Barkov, we cannot say the Florida Panthers would be here today.
Yeah, Kasey, looking at that first goal by Verhaeghe, boy, did they need that too. Got the building going, even though it ended up 1-1 at the end of the first period. Just getting that first one here, not being down, had to be great for them. But if you take a look at the Florida Panthers as a season here, 11th in the standings, I should say the odds market to open the season at a 20-1. All-Star break plus 950, entering the playoffs 7-1, and then entering into the final with a minus 134. They were sensational all the way through and got better as it went along. But the focus I want to see here is Connor McDavid. We know he's one of the greats in the game, and what an unbelievable story to tell if they were down 0-3 and he puts the Oilers in that city and Canada on his back to win a game number 7 and a Stanley Cup. It didn't happen. So taking a look forward at Connor McDavid, he was sensational once again here. What's the future for him and also the future for the Edmonton Oilers?
I feel like Connor McDavid has said it a number of times, and we can see his humility through his press conferences and his demeanor. He has no intention of bailing on the Oilers. And maybe getting this much closer is going to be that much more impactful and powerful for a guy like Connor McDavid, which is very scary. They went through a coaching change. They were very slow out the gate for this season. He's been battling a number of injuries. So it's not like the Oilers failed him or he failed the Oilers. With everything they had to overcome this season, to make it to a Stanley Cup final was impeccable. So I think that they have probably one of the best motivations heading into next season. They don't have a bunch of cap space issues, so they have a good core to just continue to build around. We saw some good depth from younger guys getting involved, so they just have minor adjustments to make where they can, alleviate Connor McDavid a little bit and let him flourish at the right time of the season. That head coach and him obviously have chemistry. They've worked together previously in his career, and I think that's just going to play a larger role in what's to come in the upcoming season. But for him to even keep his team in this, those crucial 8 points that he picked up in games 4 and 5, he's just going to continue to try to throw the Oilers on his shoulder and pull them through the finish line to hoist the cup. And in the next year or two, he could potentially do that, very much so.
You saw the odds right there. Edmonton tied for the 4th best price at 10-1 to win next year's Stanley Cup. This was the first appearance for the Oilers in a Stanley Cup final since 2006, the first in Connor McDavid's career. And despite winning the Conn Smythe in a losing effort, a historic postseason, 4th most points recorded in a single playoff run with 42. Kasey Hudson, thank you for everything all NHL season long. We appreciate your time always. More on the Early Line comes your way up next.